Alrighty, here is our lesson on hydrogen fuel cells. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I had a lot of trouble trying to find a meme or something funny to put for this. So I kind of found this image. It looked interesting, but I don't know how true it is. So I don't know if they were able to hook up the exhaust from a hydrogen fuel cell car to a person and have them breathe it in comfortably. Um, Take this with a grain of salt because I honestly found it on someone's LinkedIn page. Um, Interesting concept, though. I would not volunteer for that. All right, let's talk about hydrogen fuel cells. So, how are they used to generate electricity? Well, one, they use hydrogen gas as a fuel. So, they use H2, which is hydrogen gas. You don't find a lot of it in the atmosphere, which we'll talk about in a moment. They combine that hydrogen gas with oxygen gas, or O2. So we have O2 going in and we have H2 going in. And when they combine chemically, that produces water. In the process of producing this, they basically strip some electrons off of hydrogen, and those electrons are then going to be diverted based on charge attraction, and that is what produces electricity. So the only emission they produce is water, which is why hydrogen fuel cells seem so attractive. Their only waste product is water, which is great. Unfortunately, you do have to produce hydrogen gas first. There are a couple of ways to do this. One's called thermal processes, where you're basically reacting steam with hydrocarbon fuels. For example, methane is often used, and this has to happen at very high temperatures. I'm talking like, 1500 degrees Celsius, super hot, and that can produce oxygen. Unfortunately, it can produce CO2 as a waste product, which can be a problem. It's a greenhouse gas. Then there are electrolytic processes which use electricity to split water into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, but this really isn't very energy efficient. So it's not the popular way to produce hydrogen because you have to put a lot of energy into it. How do we use hydrogen fuel cells? Well, they can be used for a number of different processes. They can be used in industry. They could be used in residential areas and homes and as primary and backup power generation. So you could use them for electricity production. And they can also be used as power sources in areas where you're very remote. For example, I do believe some space station or space shuttles do use these. And the big deal that you'll probably see on the AP test is that they're used as a fuel source in fuel cell electric vehicles, also called hydrogen fuel cell cars, which we see a diagram of here. So there's a hydrogen tank, which is storing the hydrogen. It's going to be piped in with and then allowed to react with oxygen in your hydrogen fuel cell, which is this guy right here. And the electricity that's produced is going to go into your electric motor, which is then going to actually power the car. So it's kind of a form of an electric vehicle. It's just using a different source to produce the electricity. So, what are the environmental impacts? Well, it doesn't have a high environmental impact from the fuel cell itself because it doesn't produce CO2 as long as you produce the hydrogen gas from water. If you produce it from hydrocarbons with those thermal processes, then it does produce CO2 as a waste product. And then, unfortunately, if you produce the hydrogen gas using non renewable sources such as fossil fuels, then that kind of negates the positive impact of using these hydrogen fuel cells. So here is a summary. What are the pros? Well, the waste product is water, which is, in and of itself, generally not harmful to the environment. You can use salt and fresh water in electrolysis to produce hydrogen gas. That's important because salt water is not really useful for a lot of the things we use water for. You can't drink it, you can't water plants with it, but you can use it in this case, and 70% ish of the Earth's surface is covered with salt water. It has minimal environmental impact. It's easily transported through pipelines, just like we have pipelines to transport natural gas. You might be able to transport some hydrogen through that as well, though natural gas can be liquefied easier than hydrogen gas. You can store the hydrogen in compounds, mix it in with them to make it safer to handle because it is worrisome that hydrogen is flammable, very flammable. which I think I forgot to stick on the cons. Some of the cons, it takes energy to produce that hydrogen from water or methane. It would be very expensive to change all the systems or the infrastructure we have in place. That's generally right now being used to support gas powered cars. It would be very expensive to change that up to support hydrogen cars. So, for example, we don't have a lot of fueling stations. Most of them in the United States are located in California, where there was a really big push and investment to kind of support hydrogen fuel cell cars. And the technology is more expensive than some other sources. So, for example, electric vehicles, battery operated vehicles like Teslas and other battery operated vehicles or battery electric vehicles are a lot more popular than hydrogen fuel cell vehicles and a lot more widespread. Um, and they're coming down in price as well. All right, that is the end. I could not find a nice Bitmoji to fit this topic, so there's a random cat. None of my cats look like that, though.